Subscribe to our YouTube channel and press the bell icon to get the latest updates.
This week's national interest is sparked. Remember, I'm saying sparked and avoiding saying inspired. This week's national interest is sparked by this really ugly and unedifying street brawl that has broken out between Arnab Goswami and his Republic TV channels on the one hand, and looks like all his other rivals on the other. Now, at one level, it's a delightfully ironical spectacle that so many of these mega personalities of television media, the Maharathis as we call them, with humongous social media followings, with very large audiences and king-sized egos, they are all now burying their differences, sinking their differences in this common cause. So many people call Arnab Goswami a factor that divides. We can also see a situation now where he unites. So he's united all his rivals in their opposition to him, and these are rivals who are at completely other ends of the political, ideological and journalistic spectrum. So what do you expect me to do? Do you expect me to tell you who's right, who's wrong, whose claims of TRPs are good, whose are bad, who's fixing TRPs, who's not fixing TRPs? I shall do no such thing for two reasons. One, this is the Donald Trump era. The Trumpified world. In this, we are all polarized. So those who want to believe one side will believe that side and not be confused by facts. Those who want to believe the other side will believe the other side, never mind the facts. So Donald Trump's followers, if he says masks are not useful, they'll say not useful. Never mind that he gets infected. It will make no difference. So from Donald Trump to Narendra Modi, and then at the media end of the spectrum, say from Arnab Goswami to Ravish Kumar, you have the same polarization. Those who believe in one will believe everything that one says. Those who don't will disbelieve everything that the other says. So this is the situation we are in. So where is the need, where is the point of my telling you who I think is right or wrong? Because you will believe what you want to believe. And the second question is, it's also a question that also comes up in my mind as I write stuff like this once in a while. That's a question that school kids ask each other. What goes of your pop, or what goes of my pop? Mere baap ka kya jata hai? So you might say, tere baap ka kya jata hai, Shekhar Gupta? Let it be. Let people fight. What is the big deal? So let me now explain hamare baap ka kya jata hai. And let me try and do this with a story, an apocryphal story. Remember 60s, 70s, more 50s and 60s were the period of these huge period war movies in Hollywood. So you assembled large casts of people, soldiers who fought in these battle scenes. Larger the cast, more realistic the battle scene looked. So there is this apocryphal story of a producer who had put together the largest cast of soldiers for his battle scenes. So his financiers came, he invited his financier to come and see what he was doing. The financier said, this is a very impressive scene. The producer said, such a big battle scene has never been enacted. The financier said, but we never budgeted for so many people. Who's going to pay these people? The producer said, don't worry, I've taken care of that. In the last battle scene, I will give them real weapons and they'll all kill each other. Once they are all dead, there'll be nothing left to pay. Plus, it will look like such a realistic scene. So some of that is right now happening with us in our media. We are all caught in this free for all, and the ones who are enjoying themselves are the establishment. And we are not fighting the establishment. We are not fighting the government. Globally, in the history of democracies, you will find media fighting the government or establishment or some section of the establishment or some institution that's not delivering. This is a uniquely Indian situation where media is fighting itself. So do you see the similarities between this apocryphal story and the situation of the media right now. We are all caught up in this war of abuse, name calling, imputing motives, etc., etc., etc. You come to a situation where we don't fight and compete in the ways that we used to or we are supposed to as journalists, which means if somebody scoops you on a story, you say, oh, I got beaten on this story, but immediately start following up on that story. The instinct now is, first of all, if it's a story you can't diss, then to say, oh, I am breaking this story and call it breaking news, exclusive, super exclusive. Now I've seen a new one, explosive exclusive, right? It's even a tongue twister, explosive exclusive. So then you say, it's mine, no one else broke it. Or you try and diss that story. You diss that story, you even call the government or somebody or whoever is at the other end or a victim of that story to say, sir, isko please deny kar do, because I want to show my rival down. So this is not like, say, other democracies where if Washington Post breaks a story, the New York Times takes the baton and goes ahead with it. No such thing is happening. We are all caught up in this fratricide. And this is not just confined to TV. This goes to all other media as well, and then to social media, because so many of us have a lot of presence on social media, and that becomes another battlefield. Once again, you play favorites there, you pull down those you don't like, or you pull down those you might see as rivals. And what has happened in the process is that the fights of the studio and the boardrooms have also reached the streets. So we've seen the spectacle over the past few weeks of crew and reporters of two channels coming to fisticuffs in Mumbai, then more fisticuffs and more shouting and screaming in Hathras, and the people of India are laughing at us. In fact, the people of India are becoming more and more contemptuous of us. They think we journalists are jokes and idiots and selfish and really indisciplined and unprofessional. So we as an institution are suffering a very big damage. Now this is the point at which you might ask me that question I had mentioned earlier about goes of your pop, aap maze karo, a few people are fighting, you sit on top of a peepal tree and enjoy the fun, munch popcorn, or as we say in the heartland, gane chuso, suck sugar cane, have fun. But it's not like that. All of us have a stake in what is going on. Because important thing is to remember, if all of us are fighting, who gave us the weapons? The arms in this case have been given by media owners. Now media owners have different motivations. There are media owners whose motivation might be profit in the marketplace or loss of revenue in the marketplace. That I would say is the most honorable or the least dishonorable of all motivations, because if you're competing in the marketplace, that is legitimate. But there are those who want the media only for clout. So for them, even the TRP numbers, given the fact that news media is a very small market, TRP numbers don't bring much revenue, but they bring clout. There are others who want to use this clout, the owners, for their other businesses, because media for them is a sideshow. They've just realized that, look, I have an empire of so many $1 billion or so many $100 billion. This media is a tiny business. If I buy one, if I hold an event, the Prime Minister and Chief Ministers, the key cabinet ministers, they will come, I will escort them in, I will escort them out, I will preen on a sofa with them through my event, and everybody who matters to me, that is the bureaucrats, the judges, the other ministers, they will all be watching. So us chakkar mein, if I get a change of land use for building a shopping mall, or if I get a change of land use for building a residential colony, or if I get a contract for building a dam, all these are real examples of things that owners have got done for themselves, owners of media whose main income comes from other businesses. So that is the other motivation. And the third is owners, and in some cases even journalists who are either power players or who have ambitions of becoming power players. I'm not using the expression power brokers carefully. Power players or maybe politicians in their own right. And then it doesn't matter, you can become politicians, try your luck. If you do well, fantastic. If you do badly, you can come back and be a journalist again and lecture the rest of us on media ethics, etc., etc. So in this madness, it is the owners who are using their stars. Now the fact is that we are too small a profession, too small a universe of professional journalists for us to be able to, or some of us to be able to play just spectators with no stake in what's going on. All of us have skin in the game, whether we like to admit it or not. And we know what is at stake when in this fight you find that the president of the most dominant ruling party in India in a very long time and the information and broadcasting minister of the country both issue statements in support of one channel using the case for making the case for press freedom. So you know, in this situation all traditional equations in our lives have reversed. Usually you would have looked for support maybe from international institutions, maybe from judiciary, maybe from other journalists, if the same powers that be were targeting you, a ruling party, a ruling government. In this case you have a situation where a fight's going on, fight that so many owners are quite happy to see going on. Government is watching from the sidelines, licking its chops and also getting involved in it in this way. Now this will be one more push to a lot of us, to a lot of the less thick-skinned ones, to think that maybe it is better to be on the good side of the government, because also we know that to be anti-establishment right now does not have the same consequences as it used to have in the past. Now consequences can range from total denial of access to total denial of advertising to arm twisting of your sponsors and advertisers and investors, to at the other end, and this happens often enough, of people from the so-called quote-unquote agencies visiting your home and then leaking and planting stuff on you, which then will be carried and spread by the media organizations or channels or journalists or editors friendly to the government. So this is a complete turnaround in our lives, and that is what we need to worry about. Now in the process all our institutions are broken, our associations are broken, there are rival associations, there is maramari going on there, and people are not just divided ideologically. Ideological divisions are fine, in fact they are healthy, they always exist and they should exist. It is not that. It's a question of who I am close to, who's close to me, who I like, who I don't like. So it's all become a very messy situation. So as an institution today we are imperiled. And in this situation, and this has come at a time when the media's economics is so bad, you know, the layouts are the layoffs are happening, job cuts are happening, salary cuts are happening, everybody is in trouble, the economy is down. At this time, people who are looking at us very closely are the government. It's a strange juncture in our history when everybody, from the judiciary, from the Supreme Court to the junior most bureaucrat in the Ministry of Information and Broadcasting, wants to regulate us. It's also a situation where Supreme Court discusses the possibility of setting up a committee of eminent people to regulate the media. The government joins in there to say, yeah, regulate the media, but first of all, regulate the digital media, because they're very pesky fellows. The government also knows they are pesky because they have the advantage of technology and they have the advantage of low cost basis. So go after them also. Once again, when all this happens, who is it who gets up to say this is a bad idea? Don't invite the elephant into the tent. Don't get the government to come and regulate yourselves. But you have a situation right now where we are so divided, it's as if we are going to the government or the establishment at various places saying, boss, aake regulate karo. Acha, mujhe nahi karte to usko regulate karo, right? So this is what has made the media so vulnerable. So what will the government do? This is the most powerful government in India in 40 years. They are just waiting, and why should they not do it? They'll just come in, they'll say we are coming in for riot control, right? Or to restore order. And order will be restored by setting these rules, appointing a retired Supreme Court judge, this regulator for this, this regulator for this, this regulator for this code of conduct for this code of conduct for this. And you know what happens? When government moves into anything, it is the kiss of death. That's why I worry about the situation that is now come up. The leaders of our business, the media, have hit the self-destruct button. There is no elder brother to listen to, there is no old parent to listen to, there is no Pranab Mukherjee. As in politics, there is no Bhisham Pitame. Nobody, there is no referee to blow the whistle, there is no third umpire. All that happens in this situation is that the establishment gets stronger and stronger. So that is what goes off our pop in this meeting.